Hello.
Hello, hello.
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 Hello, hello. I'll put your,
Oh.
oh,
Hello.
you've got your video. Oh, there you go.
I got
Hello,
it.
hello.
Yeah. Hello.
We have a lot of questions that came in from YouTube, and then this person asked 3 questions on email as well. So I thought maybe we just read those and knock those out and then see what might be coming of that. But one of them is, you've said, and this question will actually probably answer all the other questions, because it says, you said you are formless. Would you please explain to new arrivals how we are formless? I have work during the talk tonight, so I will watch later. Thank you. And I would say to this, that when the talks are addressing your formlessness, they're not to who you believe yourself to be or who you appear to be. They're that you are. And as Maharaj tries to describe it, invisible, anonymous, unidentified identity, we're inviting the attention of the invisible listener that you are formless. Of course, John is not formless. John is this conglomeration of the 5 elements with a label called John. So that is not formless. But that's only the appearance. And you can discover this through meditation, through sitting with yourself. Just see what's there. Like Maharaj says, just die, just die. You awake in the morning, and before everything gets going, just pause. And you can sense that subtle, subtle, subtle sense of just die, this subtle presence, this sense of existence. And you're the knower of this. So presence, consciousness, is formless. We can describe this also in dream. Because you're laying down and sleeping, you know absolutely that everything in the dream, this form-based reality that's appearing before you, is absolutely arising from formlessness. Because your quote-unquote dream consciousness is creating this dream world. And after you wake up, you realize this. Oh, so when you know yourself in a real sense, and not yourself as the label that you believe yourself to be. There's no label that you can be. That's why Maharaj says, if at all you want to compare yourself to sky or space. Anything that can be labeled is not you, as you are prior to everything, even the knowledge I exist. But and if you want, you can say, okay, this subtle sense of presence, I'm going to identify with this. And that's why Nisargadatta Maharaj says you identify with the I am. Now, don't get carried away identifying with the I am and sit there and say, I am, I am, I am. Because the I am is formless presence, the sense of existence, I exist, just I, just I. So you remain there. It's okay. So this sense of presence, this is myself. This is not exactly true, but again, it's much better than identifying with a body. Because right now you're identifying with the body, trying to reach presence. So as you begin to sit quietly with yourself, as you awaken in the morning and that just I feeling is there, that subtle sense of presence, the existence, the I am, you sense this. You say, okay, so that I am that. And now you go about your daily activities with this knowledge that you are presence. Presence is formless. And all of this is appearing within that presence. And as you remain with this sense of presence, this I exist, this I am, this just I, as you remain there, all the secrets will be revealed. Because for one thing, the mind has nothing to say about this formlessness. It could possibly say things about something that's going on within the form-based world, but as you know your presence, and you've heard Maharaj say, you are not body, you were not body, you're not going to remain body, then mind becomes world automatically. And now when mind becomes world, dream and waking, how is there a difference? Arising formlessly, form appearances are appearing. Both are the same. So this is so just remain with your selfless self. You know you're formless, and everything is appearing within you. You are the knower of the sense of presence. You are more subtle than even this presence. But for a time, identifying with presence will allow you to remove the illusory layers of, oh, I'm in a world and I have to do things and all this kind of stuff. Because when you know yourself as presence and you know yourself in a real sense, there can't be a sense of doership. Who's doing what? And which little dream or imaginary doer are you? Just as in your dream, you could say, okay, what were you doing in your dream? And you could say, well, this body I was identified with was swimming. Well, but you were also those folks that were clapping and saying, oh, good job swimming. So what were you doing in your dream? You were clapping and you were swimming. What are you doing in this waking dream? You're doing all these things. You're powering all this world. There's no individuality. And again, this talk is not addressed to the you that you believe yourself to be. It's addressed to the you that you are, and just needs to be discovered. Okay, and then we have, how should one react if they encounter harsh and abusive words from a fellow human being and envious people? Well, again, I think we just answered that. You remain with your selfless self. How would you react in a dream? I mean, are you going to become disturbed about people saying things or envious people or whatever when you know that they're all your own self? And I think we've shared before about the fact it's really beautiful when you know that everyone is moving within you. And that when somebody steps on the foot of this particular body that you've identified with as you feel a reaction like, oh, this person stepped on my foot. But then it's quickly released. Who stepped on whose foot? When you're not identified with a body, nobody can say anything about you. This is why Nisargadatta Maharaj says, if somebody says, I'm a very great saint, I am not impressed. And if somebody says, oh, you're a very terrible saint, he is not depressed. Because they're not speaking about him. They're speaking about this appearance, which he is not. He knows he is not. And he's telling you, you are not. Because that presence is the invisible listener, the invisible speaker, one and the same. Are desires for material and sensual pleasures appropriate or should be abandoned? Neither. Desires come and go. To whom are they coming and going? If you know yourself in a real sense, it won't be such desire as spontaneous action in the moment. You know, give an example. Mayans season 4 is a TV show. I watched season 3. I wanted to see season 4. So what do? I go online and I purchase season 4. You could say, oh, you have a desire to watch Mayans. But this is in a practical sense. You understand? We can't just say that we have no desires. It's not like this. Now, you don't run with your desire and say, oh, this desire, it's very important. I must accomplish this. I must do this. You know yourself in a real sense. And if something pulls, then that's a time to step back and kind of take a look at yourself and see, okay, the entire world is within myself. And there seems to be a pull to this desire. And what I talked about again, and other people have heard this many times, so I'll make it brief. Gold, when I was in India, there was a strong desire for gold. But I went back and I told Maharaj, I was like, wow, that was crazy. Like, it was like a rumbling. And then the next time I went back, no desire for gold. So these things, when you remain with your selfless self, it's not so deliberate. It's spontaneous action in the moment. And when you talk about sensual pleasures, appropriate or should they be abandoned, again, you are classifying yourself as a body and a doer, and you're saying, should I or should I not have a family life or girlfriend or whatever? But this is not needed to speak about because this is going to appear. You don't get so hung up on, I need this. And if you do, then just remain with your selfless self. But as Sri Ramakant Maharaj has said, Sri Ramakant Maharaj was married. He had a marital life. I think Sri Ranjit Maharaj did not, but Siddhameshwar Maharaj did. Nisargadatta Maharaj did. And they had little businesses, you know, taking care of shops and such. Sri Ramakant Maharaj was a banker. So this is practical spirituality. We're not asking you to go on a mountaintop and be like, okay, I'm going to be, what do they call it? Like Brahmacharya or whatever, like celibate, and not think of women and not think of working and beg for alms every so often. That's not practical spirituality. That's actually ridiculous spirituality because that's so much egoistic of, look at me, I can sacrifice so much. When you know yourself in a real sense, there's no sacrifice, there's no, abandoning anything. Instead of trying to abandon something or say that something needs to be abandoned, remain with your selfless self. This is really all it is. Every answer is within you. You remain with your selfless self. Just I, just I. Subtle sense of presence. So much peace. I don't want to give myself away for any of these outside things. I just remain with my selfless self. And yet I can do my job, do my duties quite nicely. Nisargadatta Maharaj mentioned chemicals. How does this chemical come into existence? Do we need to do any wishes to get ourselves liberated to create this chemical for our next life? Okay. There's no current life because this is an illusory happening that's not happening. It's all within your own self. It's a long dream because the body is available. You're formless. Chemical, I believe he talks about as this I am, this sense of existence on which all the building blocks are built. And again, the sense of existence, the knowledge of existence creates the concept of duality on which all of this world is appearing. Now, to make it more explanatory, you lay down at night and you're sleeping. And you kind of go off into sleep. Now, suddenly in the middle of this sleeping, this sense of existence stirs. And dream consciousness is created spontaneously and populates a dream world spontaneously because that's what consciousness does. There's like this creation, this explosion of whatever you want to call it. And now it's populated with all the dream characters, the sun, the moon, the stars, the wind, all the elements are there because they all come from your own self. And not only that, but you are observing this dream because when you wake up on the other side, you say, oh, I had a very good dream, or oh, I had a very terrible dream. And in the time that you were in the dream, it seemed real. But it's not real. If you are swimming in a dream, you don't wake up wet. If you're exercising in a dream, you don't wake up sweaty. If you're hungry in a dream, you might wake up hungry because maybe your body is saying, oh, I'm hungry, and it goes into your consciousness, oh, I'm hungry, because of a subtle identification with the body form. But this is, and I see like they have put David Goodman and remembering Nisargadatta Maharaj, and remember, Maharaj has said, don't take all of these literally.
Yeah.
Every book is pointing to one thing: accept your selfless self. There is no God, no Brahman, no Paramatman, no master, nothing is there. This can be said many different ways, but it's the same message. And it's always the same message of, you must discover this. You know, you can go to some guru who is like, oh my goodness, you know, he is the guru of gurus. He has 40,000 followers or 4 million followers or whatever. And this is all very nice, but you have to do this work yourself. Meditation is absolute must. You have to sit and see what's there. And then as you start to begin this sense of presence, this very subtle just I, you're training this mind flow to draw attention here. Inward, outward, doesn't really matter, but you're drawing your attention to the sense of presence. In the morning, you wake up, you feel the just I, the just subtle, just I am, and you remain there. You train your attention. Oh, there's this subtle sense of presence. Now that I know this, throughout my day, if I feel like I'm lost because I am identified with a body and a current situation as something that's actually happening, I can return to this sense of presence. My attention goes to presence. And after a while, it's like exercising. Attention goes to presence continuously until the one, this is what they say, the concentrator is dissolved within the concentration. Because presence remaining with presence, consciousness remaining with consciousness, dissolves everything. Because everything becomes an object that can be observed, and that is other than that you are. And again, this talk is not meant for you as you believe yourself to be or as you appear. This talk is addressed to the invisible listener. We are, as Maharaj says, we are inviting the attention of the invisible listener. Invisible, anonymous, unidentified identity. That you are. You are not body. You were not body. You are not going to remain the body. Body is not your identity. Birth and death happen to the body, not you. And that's the end of the questions. So, good.
Could you say more about the world is inside you?
Yeah, because you're formless. The world is an appearance within your formlessness. And again, you could say, when I was identified with a body, my mind was in here. This is where I thought my mind was. All my thoughts, everything was right in here. But if I'm not a body, then where's this mind? This mind is appearing as the world. And this is an object within my mind. And when I say my mind, it's not John's mind. You are that. Maharaj says the entire world appears upon your presence. Your presence, your consciousness, this mind that you identified with is, again, my mind in here. Now, if I have no body, where's that mind I was identifying with? It's what we call the world. Now, what's the difference between dreaming and waking? There's none.
I guess it wouldn't matter. It wouldn't matter whether I'm identifying with a subjective experience or any experience, or with identifying something being something. It's both the same. It's identification either way. So there's no difference.
What's all occurring within you, there's no need to identify.
So, well, I guess if I'm saying identification is happening, I'm identifying a subjective experience. But so from the perspective of a body, I guess I could say I'm identifying, but actually I'm not. That's what makes it possible to not identify, I guess, is to see that that's just passing stuff going on.
Exactly. You're not body. And again, like we talked about in the dream, the dream scenario, you're laying down, you're sleeping. Suddenly a lake appears and people are running around the lake and bicycling, and mom and dad are out picnicking and all of this. They're all within the formlessness that you are. Now, you may identify with the dream body that's observing all of this activity, but in reality, you are not that dream body, or you are all of these dream bodies.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It could be anything. It's no difference. It could just be anything.
Your experience is not experience unless you identify with one of those forms. And the coolest thing is, if you know yourself in a real sense, you could say, okay, I'm identifying with this jogger jogging around the lake, so therefore I'm having the experience of jogging. But then you can also look at the husband and wife and the little baby having a picnic and say, oh, I'm identifying with the mother and I'm having the experience of picnicking with my family. It all depends on the pointing and the identification with an object within your own self, which is then creating an experience because you have an object in time and space.
So you could say it either way. It's all me or none of it's me.
Exactly. And nothing's happening. Because in reality, see, it's like this formlessness cannot interact with this world. Like it cannot. You are not able to interact with this world unless, again, like in dream, you can interact with the dream characters by assuming the position of a character in the dream, speaking with another character in the dream, and having the concept of duality because of the knowledge of existence and the appearance of objects. But it's not true. In a dream, you're not actually running, nor are you picnicking, nor are you swimming, nor are you sunbathing or bicycling, although you may appear to be doing all those things.
But in a sense, only I am true, which is why
And that is the
except for selfless self.
exactly invisible, anonymous, unidentified identity. And that's why they so hammer. Sri Ramakant Maharaj hammers so much. Except your selfless self. There is no God, no Brahman, no Paramatman, no master, nothing is there. Because all of these labels came along with the body. Your invisible, anonymous, and unidentified identity has been identified as God, Brahman, Paramatman, Master. But that's only known because of identification with a body and participating in a body-based existence, which is not true because you are not body. And this has to be discovered for yourself. That's why Maharaj says we can speak about this forever, but investigating your own self.
Where does that leave me?
You?
Yeah.
Well, you're an appearance within your own self. When you know this, it leaves you in, I guess, heaven. You know, it leaves you in a space where you're not troubled by these thoughts. I think Maharaj talks about, you know, you forgive and forget. Your selfless self-devotion is spontaneous devotion. No troubles because you're not identified with anything that can be in trouble. Like it was asked the question about what do you do about envious people or people who are harassing you? This will not even be in your existence. You will just have scenes appearing and disappearing before you. But, and again, like a TV show, okay, we turn to this channel. For a moment, we're very much involved in this. Channel turns, oh, look, new scene, very much involved in this. Oh, new scene. And it's just continuous, spontaneous action in the moment. Everything is literally pick up, drink, and put down. And what you used to think was so important is pick up, drink, put down.
Well, nothing is important.
Well, nothing is happening.
Nothing is happening. Yeah.
And yet again, you do your job, you do your duties. You don't just sit and, you know, if I just sat and told my boss, you know what, I know I'm formless and I'm absolute. I'm going to sit here. And if something happens to feel like working, then working will spontaneously occur. No. This is not practical spirituality. Then when I feel like eating, I cannot spontaneously eat because I have no money to feed myself. As Maharaj says, you cannot just sit around and say, oh, I'm a spiritual man and everything is good and, you know, food is just going to come spontaneously. No. You do your job, do your duties, do what's right in front of you. And when you leave the body, it will be no sense of a dying. You're here, you're not here. And that's it. But you're always here. It's just the appearance that you believed yourself to be will not be here. Again, just as in a dream.
Well, that,
you know, you have a dream, the guy's doing the bicycle and he's riding around and then suddenly he rides off. Well, where did he go? I think Nisargadatta Maharaj has said, all these people in the room, and then they all leave. What remains?
for the first time a few days ago, I actually could understand what you're talking about just scenes passing. It was sort of like a brief feeling, and then next day I was sort of feeling myself, what normally feels like myself, sort of just falling away.
Yeah.
And then And then, well, looking back, if I'm looking at that, seeing, well, that happened, well, that's just another scene. It's just more of the same.
Exactly. Yep. As you have less and less body-based pressures, belief in body, your formlessness naturally occurs because you don't have this layers upon your presence.
And the identifications will still have a chance to, to seem to be there, but that's why we do mantra.
Well, and the body will still be available. You just won't consider it you. It's yours, but it's not you. Yours meaning you, the invisible holder of the body is holding this body. So this is your body, but it's not you. And when the body is there or not there, it matters not because you are. The formless holder of the body does not die. Presence was not born and does not die. The sense of existence that came along with the body will no longer be felt.
Okay, how about this though? Okay, the sense of me, the sort of the king layer, like I said last week, never existed in the first place, the me that I think that I am. But what about the body? Can you say that that didn't exist in the first place either?
Well, it's a dream character. It's called a waking dream, but it's a dream character. It's a 5 elemental body. It returns to the 5 elements. It's kind of on lease for a time called a lifespan. But you see, like, even as we're all here, when this body, John, just like Maharaj, we're coming up in August. It'll be his, I think, 4th Mahasamadhi, what do they call it? Prajunta or something like this. And so we all saw Maharaj, knew Maharaj, and then Maharaj was no more in body form. And yet we're all here. So it shows you, okay, we don't just all disappear. This is why you are the formless presence. When they say eternal, you're outside of time because all of this is an appearance within your own self. Yes, you will see bodies no longer being viable, presence no longer animating, or whatever you want to call these different various bodies. And eventually this body also will have to be vacated. But the presence that's occupying the body and is moving the body and has the belief in body of I am someone, this is eternal. And again, when we say eternal, it's very shaky because it came along with the body, the concept of eternal.
It's
in reality, formless presence, the whole thing is like, like, boom, okay, because it's all formlessly present. As in when you're dreaming, you wake up and you might have thought you were dreaming for hours and you look at the clock. Oh, look at that, it's only 5 minutes. That's crazy, but it seemed to be a long time. Well, this long dream, I am somebody else, is just a blink of an eye.
It's not eternal time. It's present, present, present.
Well, presence is formless. So you're outside of time, space. The space occurs within you. So you can't describe yourself based on body-based understandings.
That's it.
That's why we say like no inside, no outside. People say, oh, it's inside or outside. I have to turn inward or I feel this outside. But if you're not a body, where's inside and outside? When you know yourself in a real sense, inside and outside don't make sense anymore. Which is again why you can say, I used to believe mind was here when I was identified with the body. But if I'm not body, This world that I used to call world is mind. Its appearances within the formlessness that I am. Oh, so that I am that. Invisible, anonymous, unidentified identity. No birth, no death. In all these concepts of chakra and karma and all these sort of things, it's all body-based and can be eliminated simply by I am not body. If I don't understand I'm not body, I've heard I'm not body 100 million times, but if I don't understand that, I remain with my selfless self. And I remove the layers on my presence through mantra, through remaining with a sense of presence. I remove the layers on my presence, and then I know myself in a real sense. So nothing that came along with the body can be of any use to me.
So could you say the purpose of these bodies is to come to know that they're not real and that you're the invisible selfless self, that we're in these bodies. So is the purpose to wake up?
I mean, again, there's no real purpose because nothing's actually happening. But if you're going to say that
You're in a body.
in this body-based existence,
Yes.
the best use while having a body, a human form, is to know yourself in a real sense.
Yes. That's okay. Okay. The other thing I want to run by you is that I read a person was brain dead, so that technically, no, there was no activity. But when she was a near-death experience, when she awakened, she could tell that she had had an experience talking to her parents in Florida, whatever. And then they checked to see what that conversation was, and that she and her parents both knew what their conversation was. So doesn't that mean that sometimes consciousness does continue beyond the body when the body is dead?
Again, everything that you know, feel, touch, experience, all of it is within the bubble of illusion, the bubble of consciousness. So miraculous experiences appear upon your presence, but they can be discarded because it's just within you. If I identify as a person or someone listening about these experiences, I will say, wow, that's truly amazing. That's truly profound. Consciousness continues after death of the body. But it's every experience, every action, every memory, everything is within the bubble of illusion, within the consciousness. And it's just scenes, it's just appearances. And again, miraculous appearances, miraculous experiences may appear upon your presence. But you just discard these because the formlessness that you are, this is, to you, what is this?